Alright guys, thanks for joining me. I wanted to do this video because I've had this camper for about a year and it came with this Fiamma F45s awning, and I've really enjoyed the awning a lot. And over the course of the year I've met some other people at different campouts or rallies or places that talked about some problems they've had with the awning, and I've had a couple of those problems myself, so I want to try to fix those problems with this video.
Okay guys, this might be hard to see. I'm setting up my Fiamma awning off of my four-wheel camper, and I've heard a few people talk about this. Check this out. When I take that leg off, oh, what do I see here? This clip is supposed to stay on the awning, and it's got a little piece of metal on the back side here that's supposed to twist into a track, and it just tightens with a normal Phillips screw right here, as you can see. It's really bright out, so the camera might mess up if I drop it any lower. So what I'm going to do, luckily I have some tools with me, is I'm going to work it back into place, and then I'm going to tighten that screw. And I didn't bring any with me, but I'm going to add it to my kit, but I'm going to thread lock these. So I'm going to thread lock that. I'm going to thread lock this piece. It's got a screw in it. I think that kind of pulls in and locks your awning into place when you crank it back in. And then I'm going to take this bracket off. You can see here when I pop it, it stays in place, no problem. I'm not even sure if you guys can see that, but I've heard some people talk about that. So just a little thing, but it's something to check on before you head out on the rattly, bumpy roads, because these things are just going to come loose.
One of the things you can see actually attached to my awning, it's one extra add-on that I've done to it that I think has really helped quite a bit and really helped make the awning more stable and just gives me more space, and this is a Dragonfly tarp. I'll put a link in the description down below on where to get these, but it slides into the keter port up there, and this one has 3 stakes to stake it down to the ground. So with that, you can see here, this pole is really secure. So with that awning in place, the Dragonfly tarp in place coming off of the keter slots here, and with the awning deployed, it really stabilizes the unit and really helps it in windy situations. Now if it gets crazy windy, then I'm going to take the whole system down, but for the most part, once I put the Dragonfly tarp on and have this in position, I'm really not worried about just light wind or even if a thunderstorm or something like that comes up. So a couple of things that we are going to work on today though is I think I figured out a solution to help me with the legs. These little twist ties here I feel aren't strong enough, and they do come loose on me every once in a while, especially if the wind and things are rattling just a little bit. And then secondly, some of the hardware up here in the track that holds the legs into position, some people have run into some problems with those in the past, so I'm going to hopefully correct that as well. So stick around if this is something you're interested in. Hit like and subscribe also, and I'll put out some more videos just like this. Let's get started. Alright guys, you're probably like, why are you camped on a hill and why is your awning set up and everything on the hill? Well, last night I came up out of Phoenix, and there's supposed to be a pretty good thunderstorm, and I love watching the lightning, and this was a really good view out to the south of the Phoenix area, kind of out over Kearney and the whatnot, which is kind of southeast of Phoenix, and set up the awning and everything, so when it did rain, and it did rain, kept everything dry, and I could kind of hang out here and watch the lightning, so it was perfect. But because I'm a little bit height challenged, what I'm going to do is just lower these legs to work on that hardware that we talked about. This is a little bit better height, maybe even a little bit more. Still under, there we go, that'll work. This one down over here, same height, about, lock that back up. Perfect, now that I can get to these without getting up on my tippy toes. Alright, so we'll start working on these right now. Okay guys, for the first thing we're going to do here, here's where the bracket is. It's about maybe just a touch over a foot away from the center hardware, and I don't think it mattered. I checked on the legs. There's nothing where it needs to line up to the leg. There's no specific spot that the leg needs to absolutely snap in right here, so I think we'll be fine. So I just threw a little piece of our little dot of Sharpie up there on the tarp. I think it's gonna be fine. It's not gonna kill resale value. So if you don't want to do that, you could put a piece of blue painter's tape up or whatever you want to do, or you could have your wife hold her finger there, but you know how that's gonna go, so maybe don't do that. So take that screw out. You can see there, that's about a 1/4 20 screw. It's about a 1/2 inch long.
probably barely a 1/2 inch, could be 3/8, but it looks like a 1/2 inch. So got the screw, here's the bracket itself. You can see here, this is where the leg snaps in. And then on the back side, this upper area, there's kind of a rectangle right here, and that rectangle matches up with this slot where the backer nut is. And then you can even see a little bit, that backer nut is fallen down into the slot. So to make this a little bit easier, we're gonna take everything out. And if you can see the shape of that, it's got the 2 notch sides. So what happens is when that slides back in there, because it slides in horizontally like that, and then as you tighten it, it's gonna twist, and then those 2 angle pieces are what kind of lock into the top and bottom of that channel and holds that piece in place. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna assemble the whole thing out here where it's easier. And then from the back side there, I'm gonna drop a couple drops of blue Loctite or any kind of thread tightener you wanna use back inside there and let it kind of get down over the threads. And then we'll set this unit back in place as one piece, so we're not trying to fumble and get things aligned and then tighten it up. And we should be good to go to where we won't lose that screw. So let's get started with that. All right, so here's the bracket. Hopefully this stays in focus for it. And then here we got obviously our nut that's gonna go on the back of it. And then what we wanna do is I wanna just put that nut on there, just 1/4 turn maybe just, or 1 turn. It's nice on there, nice and tight. So it's on there, obviously plenty of thread, and then obviously you can see down in there, there's plenty of exposed threads on the nut. All right, so I'm gonna cut to another shot here, so hang tight. All right, so now that we got that set up, and this is gonna be much easier to do than try to do this stuff up in place. I got a little bottle of Loctite here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna drop just a couple drops, not a lot. There's 1, maybe spin it around, 2. That's way too much, but just get a couple drops in there. Don't fill it up, do anything crazy. You can see it's already kind of working its way down over all those threads. So you got a little bit of working time, so I'm not gonna dilly-dally here. Let me get the camera back set up to the other location and we'll get this bad boy in place. All right guys, so here's our mark right there that we made. And what we're gonna do is just have that nut sit sideways and slide it right into the slot. And then more importantly is we're gonna get that piece of plastic for the this rectangle in the back to pop into position where it needs to be. And that feels pretty good right there. And then all we need to do now, because everything's lined up, you don't have to try to chase it, is I'm just going to tighten that screw into place, and it's going to pull that nut over the screw, which in turn puts that Loctite onto the screws thread and the other thread. I'm lined up right where I need to be. Everything's locked into place. Give it a little half turn there, so this one should be a good shape. So let's go ahead and repeat the process on the other one. Okay, first thing again, give yourself a little mark with your Sharpie. Loosen out that screw. Go ahead and get it out. Take the bracket away. And take out the little guy. All right, let's go get it threaded up with some Loctite. Okay, you can see the Loctite in there. I just didn't want to have to readjust the camera. It's kind of pain with it being so bright out from underneath the shade. So again, the Loctite's in there. We're going to get that turned horizontally, just like we talked about. So it's horizontal. And drop it back into the track. Get everything twisted around. You kind of hear that click into place, and I know that the bracket is in the track, nice and snug. Screw is in there, giving that a turn, pulling that nut onto the threads of the screw, and then those 2 angle areas are locking into place. In that channel, that's nice and tight. That Loctite is going to tighten up. Now you can go down the most bumpy trail that you want to, and these should stay in place. They shouldn't rattle out. But I'd also say, I don't know if you want to, maybe throw it on your
phone, calendar, or any kind of a calendar, maybe just check these. You know, even if you don't pull your awning out that often, or you know, you're in cloudy areas, this, that, and the other, maybe just tell yourself, hey, every 2 months or every 3 months or whatever it is, just roll these out and check these and just give them a feel and make sure your screws and stuff are in there. And also too, before you Loctite these, if you want, one thing that might be kind of interesting to do is, I don't think you'll lose the nut on the back. I mean, you probably could, but that's much more difficult to lose that nut than not. But maybe take the screw down to the hardware store and buy 1 or 2 of them and kind of have yourself a little spare nut and bolt bag that you keep in the camper. So if you do need to replace it, you do have a replacement. So I'm actually going to, now looking at it, I'm going to change the screw on the center post because I think it has the same setup, and then that way I know that all 3 of these pieces are going to be locked into place. So we're going to do this middle piece too. It feels pretty tight, but hey, why not do it if we're doing them all the rest anyway? So same style screw, just get in there with your, oh, guess what I didn't do? Probably important too, because this center one is really important because it's got to line up with the latch up there, is make yourself a mark. So don't be like me and get too quick. Make yourself a mark on this center one, because this one needs to line up with the locking mechanism on the top. So now that I got that marked, go ahead and get this loosened out. Comes on out. Oh, look at that, and it stayed on there for me. So that's going to save me 1 step. So that one's on there. I'm going to drop a little bit of Loctite in there, set that boy right back in place and tighten her up. Okay, as you guys can see, got the Loctite in there. This one has the same kind of rectangle shape that's going to match with the track right there. So we can get that in there, get that into the track so it doesn't twist. And then see how this is too. The last thing I want to show real quick. See how that curves up? That whole thing goes up. That needs to go towards the sky, towards the actual awning itself. So got everything in place where it needs to be. I'm lined back up on my Sharpie mark. Tightening that in there. Sorry about the focus. Doesn't help with the screw doing what it's doing. Perfect. Now all 3 of those are Loctited, and I'm much more confident of going down washboard roads and banging around a little bit and knowing that these are going to be where they need to be, and I'm not going to be surprised when I open up the awning. And I'll show B-roll because it actually happened to me when I was out at the Grand Canyon. So one of the side brackets had come loose. But now we're all set. So now that we're done with that, we're going to move on to the next modification. Okay, there's nothing worse than coming back from a hike and all you want to do is get yourself a nice cold beverage and sit down and relax. And you come back and the first thing you see from a distance is your awning flopping in the wind a little bit like this. And at first you think, oh my God, my awning broke. What happened? What did I do? And then in all reality, what it is, it's this little hand thumb twist lock that they have on the leg here that has come loose. And then it's just sort of bouncing in the air because it's not staying in place. What I want to do is put together a little fix that I think will help mitigate this problem from happening, and then it's a quick thing that you can take off when you go to store the awning and roll it up at the end of a trip. So let's get into it. Okay guys, so what I'm going to attempt to do, I think it's going to help, is I'm going to use these cotter pens. And it's got 2 settings on it, which isn't that big of a deal. They're just small ones I found at the hardware store, and a little locking pin to go into that cotter pen. And then the cotter pins are just under a 1/4 inch, so I got a 1/4 inch metal bit, and then I'm going to start everything with this smaller bit just to get a nice pilot hole going. So let's get started with these cotter pins in place. What that's going to do is that's going to hold the bottom leg from being able to go back up into position, or letting that top leg come down. And I think it'll help keep this from happening if those thumb screws come loose. Okay guys, so this cotter pin right here, I'm going to drill a hole just up a little bit into the upper post here, and then this cotter pin is going to come through that hole from the back side, and then that lock pin will go in there. And then what will happen is it'll keep this piece right here from sliding up, or vice versa, this piece from sliding down, and it'll hold everything in place. So that's kind of my plan on that. So let's get started with drilling the holes. Okay, I would say make sure that you buy yourself a new 1/4 inch metal bit if you haven't, because if you're going to be like me, you're going to think, oh, I got a 1/4 inch metal bit. I've had it for 6 months. It should be sharp as ever. No, it's dull as a friggin' butter knife. So get yourself a new one, you'll go right through it. Okay, now we're going to take that cotter pin, put it right through that hole, put on our safety pin right here, put it all the way on, put it halfway on. It's not going to come out of that hole. Now watch, if I loosen this, see now the weight is all on that cotter pin. It's loose, it's going to move around a little bit, but the whole unit isn't going to fall. So, and then traveling wise, you can probably just have a little kit or something like that. You could probably leave this in the leg. I'm going to experiment with it a little bit. Well, you can't leave it in the leg because you got to slide it up. So take that back. You're going to have to take it out and store it somewhere. So get yourself a little Ziploc bag or a little nylon case or something to put them in. But so you can see here, that's tightened all the way up with the thumb screw. It's not touching. There's a little bit of a gap, but let's just say some wind comes and that loosens. It drops right on that cotter pin, but the whole unit doesn't come down. So you're not going to have that horrible flex going on up on your up on the top of the unit and putting any stress on that hardware up there. So let's go over and do the other side. Okay guys, here's one other thing I want to show you. If you look at my awning right now, it's tilted down a little bit there on the front side or on the right hand side there. What I like to do is when I have my awning out and it's raining, I like to have one side down a little bit and let the water funnel off of the awning one way or the other. So this configuration has the water going off that side, and you can see down on the ground I like to stack up a little stack of rocks, so when that water does come down and hit the ground, I don't get a lot of dirt and mud splashing up. So I'm going to drill a second set of holes on both sides about 1.5 inches up, which will allow me also to put the cotter pin in position like this, so even if some rain and things like that, it won't drop. So I'm going to go ahead and put those second holes in now. Okay guys, this is the last hack that I have. Everything gets put away really nice and easily, and then every once in a while I notice that the front part of my awning stays nice and tight. But as I bounce down the road or travel, and then let's say 2 weeks from now I go to get some gas or something, and I close the door, I can kind of hear the awning rattling. And it seems like this back side back here doesn't necessarily close up. Yeah, it's even got a little bit of a flex right now. It's got a little, like 1/4 inch of a flex. So what my last hack is, I just got a piece of Velcro here. It's probably about 18 to 20 inches long. And just right here, just behind the door, just so I can get to it without it getting off of the stairs, I throw a piece of Velcro on back here just to keep this pulled in a little bit. Just keeps that rattle down and keeps that back end closed. So other than that, that's all the different little hacks and fixes I have for the Fiamma F45s. If you guys got any questions for me, throw them down in the comments. If you got any other tips or tricks that you've done to your Fiamma awning, let me know in the comments as well. If you like the video, like it. If you don't like it, don't like it, whatever. And if you want to see more videos from me, hit subscribe, and then I'll come up in your subscriber feed. All right, guys, have fun, get out there and have a good time.